It's 5:18 on a Friday, and the laptop makes this small, definite click when I close it, like a period at the end of a sentence. I sling my bag over one shoulder and I'm whistling before I hit the parking lot, like a person with nothing chasing them. Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, and I'm on the golf course before the dew's burned off, or the motorbike's out and the engine's the only sound for miles. It's the version of me that doesn't check a phone every 6 minutes. Life feels wide open. Nothing owes anything to anyone yet. Sunday morning holds. I go to church, sit in the same pew, let my mind go quiet for an hour, then lunch with the family, the fry-up I look forward to all week, eggs and bacon and the good bread. This is the part I'd keep if I could only keep one. Then it's 3 o'clock and something flips, like a frequency changing in a room nobody else can hear. Right under my ribs, this tight coiling feeling starts, and I didn't invite it. Nothing happened. No phone call, no email, nothing on the page in front of me. Just 3 p.m., and my body already knows something I don't. Here's what gets me. My mind isn't doing anything. No spiral of nervous thoughts. No to-do list flashing behind my eyes. I checked. Actually sat there and checked. Nothing. But my body's already 3 steps ahead, tightening like it smells smoke in a house where I can't find a single flame. That gap between what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling is the part I can't explain away. I looked it up eventually, mostly because I needed a name for it, and I didn't find one until I was 24. The Sunday Scaries. Which sounds almost cute written down, like something you'd laugh about, except it isn't cute at 3:15 with my jaw tight and my stomach doing that low, slow drop. What surprised me most is that it's physical first, the body clocking in before the mind ever gets the memo. So I started asking the obvious question, is this about work or is it about the day off ending? Because there's a real difference. Work has obligation built into it, people counting on me, a clock I don't control. The weekend has agency, it's mine to spend. I kept going back and forth for weeks before I realized I was asking the wrong question entirely. Okay, that's the easy version of it. Here's the actual version. It was never really about the job, and it was never really about the rest either. It's the transition between them, the seam, the place where one version of me has to hand the day off to another version of me, and neither one wants to let go cleanly. That handoff is where the anxiety actually lives. Think about how much effort it takes just to get a week moving, all that momentum, built up hour by hour, day by day, and then Friday comes and I slam the brakes on it completely. 2 days later, I'm expected to shove that same wheel and get it turning again from a dead stop. Nobody trained me for that kind of start-stop. I don't think anyone's built for it. By Sunday afternoon, my nervous system has already done the math I haven't consciously done. It knows the wheel needs pushing again in less than 18 hours. It knows before my thinking brain catches up, which is honestly the unsettling part. I'm not deciding to feel this. Something underneath the deciding part of me clocked the calendar and started bracing without asking my permission first. There's a small almond-shaped piece of the brain called the amygdala, and its whole job is threat detection. It doesn't know the difference between an actual danger and a Monday morning inbox. It just sees something looming on the horizon and sends out warnings, flooding the body with the same signal it would use for real danger. My Sunday isn't being ruined by logic. It's an alarm system that can't tell the difference. So then I wondered, was this always happening to people, or is it something we built? Did someone 200 years ago feel this on a Sunday evening, knowing Monday meant the same work as always? Or is this a newer kind of dread, something that showed up with fluorescent lighting and inboxes that never actually close? I genuinely don't know yet. I'm still sitting with it. Here's what I do know. My work never fully closes. There's no door I lock at 5 that keeps everything on the other side of it. Emails land at midnight from time zones I'm not even awake in. Projects don't have a finish line so much as a series of pauses that look like endings but aren't. Nothing gets to just be done. It just gets set down for a while. I actually counted once, out of morbid curiosity, 20 to 30 projects running at any given time, none of them enormous on their own, but stacked together they're a lot to hold in one skull. Some are barely alive, just a name in a folder. Others have 3 or 4 moving pieces each. None of them are closed. All of them are technically my responsibility until they are. On top of the projects, there's the actual list. 70 items sitting there at any given time, and roughly half of them aren't even mine to finish. They're waiting on someone else to reply, to sign off, to send the file back. So I'm carrying my own unfinished business and the unfinished business of everyone I'm waiting on too, and that number never seems to shrink. Never. Here's the part that took me longest to admit. Those items being written down doesn't make them free. I used to think a list meant I'd offloaded the weight, handed it to the paper instead of my head, but keeping something open, even quietly, even just as a line item, costs something. 70 small doors left ajar is still 70 small drafts moving through the house all day. So by Sunday afternoon, my brain, sensing all these open loops waiting on the other side of Monday, starts trying to get ahead of it. It wants order before the disorder even arrives. It's already sorting, already triaging, already trying to build some kind of structure to meet a day that hasn't happened yet. It's not relaxing into Sunday. It's rehearsing Monday, uninvited, over and over. I've started picturing it almost like building a wall before I know where the attack is coming from. My mind wants a force field up, wants the sandbags stacked, even though nothing has actually threatened me yet. It just assumes there are booby traps somewhere in that inbox, snipers somewhere in that calendar, and it would rather over-prepare for imaginary danger than get caught doing nothing. By the time it's evening, the physical alarm has recruited actual thoughts to go with it. It starts as just the tight feeling under my ribs around 3, but by 7 or 8 it's turned into full sentences. What did I forget? Who's waiting on me? What's going to be sitting in that inbox first thing? The thoughts don't start it, they just show up once the body's already ringing the bell, and underneath all of it, every single Sunday, is the same one sentence looping through my head. Do I actually have it in me to handle what's coming? Not the tasks specifically, just the general weight of showing up and being capable again. It's such a small sentence to carry so much dread, and yet there it is, week after week, asking the same thing like it's never gotten an answer. What troubles me more than the question itself is how long I've been asking it. I started my first real job at 22, I'm 28 now. That's 6 years, something like 300 Sundays, asking the exact same question and landing on the exact same answer every time. Yes, apparently, somehow, yes. And still, every Sunday around 3, some part of me forgets the entire track record and asks again like it's the first time. I almost didn't want to write the next part down because it sounds like I'm making excuses for myself, but I think the reason this hits me the way it does is that I take things seriously. If I genuinely didn't care whether Monday went well, none of this would show up at all. The dread is, in some backwards way, proof that I'm paying attention to people who are counting on me. At work, there are people relying on what I deliver, whether they say it out loud or not. Deadlines with other names attached to them, decisions that move because I moved first. It's not dramatic most weeks, but it's constant, this quiet math of who's waiting on what from me specifically. And some part of my body keeps a running tally of that, even when my conscious mind isn't looking directly at it. And then there's home, which nobody talks about as its own kind of job, but it is one. Beating people, making sure there's clean clothes and a functioning routine, showing up steady even on the days I don't feel steady. Two entirely different sets of people depending on two entirely different versions of me, and both lists are real. Quietly running through Sunday afternoon whether I want them to or not. This is the part I keep avoiding if I'm honest. It's not really the tasks that scare me, it's the idea of letting someone down. A missed deadline is data. A person who was counting on me and got nothing is something else entirely. I think that's the actual engine under all of this, not incompetence, not laziness, just a specific dread of being the reason something didn't hold for someone else. There's also this undercurrent that nobody says directly but everyone feels. You're only as good as your last delivery, not your last year, not any reputation built up over time, just the last output. Every week. Every single week, some part of the ledger resets to zero, no matter what I did the week before. I think that's part of why Sunday night never actually gets easier, no matter how many Mondays I've already survived. Okay, here's the thing I actually haven't said yet, not even to myself in so many words. There's a version of me at work that isn't entirely the version of me anywhere else. I straighten up, I dial certain things down and turn other things up. It's not fake exactly, but it's not the whole picture either, and crossing back and forth between those two versions costs something I've never actually measured. If you're the kind of person who reads other people's notes apps too, stick around. I write this stuff down regularly, and this next part is the one I think about the most. 40 hours a week, give or take, spent as a slightly edited version of myself. Not a stranger, just adjusted, toned for a room that has different rules than the rest of my life does. Sometimes I catch myself performing belief in something I haven't actually fully bought into, nodding along to a plan I have quiet doubts about, saying the encouraging thing because that's the role, not because it's exactly what I think. It's not lying, not really, it's just living inside a story I'm not sure I'd write myself, and playing my part in it anyway because the part needs playing. And I think that gap, between the story I'm performing and what I actually believe underneath it, is where a lot of the rawness comes from, not the hours, not even the workload most weeks. It's the low hum of not being fully myself for the better part of every weekday, and then trying to snap back into whoever I actually am for 2 days before doing it all again. Here's the deepest layer, the one I really didn't want to get to. At some point, the task and the identity stop being two separate things. I stop doing the job and start being the job. It happens so slowly you don't notice the exact day it finished happening. You just wake up one Sunday and realize the dread isn't about a task list anymore. It's about who you'd be without it. Listen to how people actually talk about themselves. Nobody says I currently perform tasks related to construction. They say I'm a builder, I'm a driver, I'm in finance. The job stops being a sentence with a verb in it and becomes a noun you carry around, permanently attached to the space where a name used to be enough on its own, which means if I fail at the actual job, it was never going to just be a professional setback. It reaches somewhere deeper than that. If the task and the self are fused, then a bad week at work isn't a bad week. It's a small referendum on whether I'm fundamentally capable, whether I'm actually who I've been telling myself I am. That's a heavy thing to have riding on a Tuesday afternoon, so what do I actually do with all of this at 7 p.m. on a Sunday? If I'm honest, mostly I doom scroll, headlines about things I can't control, in a feed engineered to keep my thumb moving. I've checked my phone 6 times in an hour some nights. 6. Not because there's anything on it I need, just because it's easier than sitting still with the actual feeling underneath it. I have a family member who stays up as late as physically possible every single Sunday night, on some private theory that the longer the day stretches, the further away Monday gets pushed. I don't fully understand the math of it, and I don't think it holds up under any real scrutiny, but I get the impulse completely. Some part of all of us is trying to negotiate with a clock that doesn't negotiate. I started wearing a sleep tracker a while back, mostly out of curiosity, and the data quietly confirmed something I hadn't wanted to look at directly. Sunday is, without fail, my least efficient night of sleep all week. Even on the nights I go to bed early, even when nothing eventful happened that day. Whatever's stirring under the surface doesn't wait for me to notice it before it starts costing me rest. So here's what I've actually started doing about it, layer by layer. First thing, before I close the laptop on Friday, that same click I told you about earlier, I try to shut as many loops as I actually can. Reply to what I can reply to. Flag what needs flagging. I'll never get it fully closed, nobody does, but every loop I close Friday is one less thing waiting to ambush me Sunday at 3. Second thing, and this one matters more than it sounds like it should, I write down 3 or 4 specific tasks for Monday morning before I ever leave the building, not a vague sense of what's coming, actual concrete lines, one thing to open with, one thing to finish by lunch. It takes maybe 4 minutes and it changes the entire shape of my Sunday every single time I actually do it. Here's why I think that small 4-minute habit works as well as it does. My nervous system isn't actually asking for the problem to be solved, it's asking for evidence that someone, some version of me, has already looked the threat in the eye and made a plan. Once there's a target written down, even a small one, some part of my body quietly stands down for the rest of the weekend. Now, I'll be honest, the plan almost never survives contact with an actual Monday morning. I work with people across different time zones, and plenty of times the first email of the day sets an entirely different tone than the one I prepared for. But even then, opening that same laptop with a plan already in hand means I'm not starting from zero. I'm adjusting something instead of improvising it from panic, and that difference is bigger than it sounds. The second real tool I use is something I learned a while back and didn't take seriously until I actually tried it. You name the feeling out loud, specifically, instead of just marinating in it. Not a vague sense of dread, an actual sentence. There's a name for it, something like naming it to tame it, and it sounds almost too simple to work. It works anyway, more often than I expected it to. So Sunday around 3, when that tightness shows up under my ribs, I try to get forensic about it instead of just absorbing it quietly. I'll actually say, out loud sometimes, there's the thought that I won't be able to handle this. There's the tension sitting right around my stomach again. Naming the exact shape of it, instead of the fuzzy version, takes some of the wind out of it every single time. The naming doesn't work on the first pass. I've learned that the hard way, standing at the kitchen counter more nights than I'd like to admit. 9 times, 10 times, I say it out loud into an empty room. There's the thought again. There's the tightness again. Like I'm reading the same name off a list until it stops sounding like a verdict and starts sounding like weather. Then I put my feet flat on the tile, cold through my socks, and I make myself notice 3 things in the room that have nothing to do with Monday. The crack in the mug on the drying rack, the hum of the fridge, the light going orange outside. That's the whole trick. I don't solve anything. I come back into my body and keep walking toward the sink. I used to argue with it. I'd build a whole case. Actually, I'm fine. Actually, I've done this 52 Mondays in a row and survived every one. And the arguing always made it louder, not quieter. Somewhere around spring, I stopped debating it. Now it's only 2 moves. Name it. Pick up the dish towel. Don't shake hands with the thought. Walk past it toward the next thing. Some nights the naming isn't enough and I go back to paper, not the notes app, an actual notebook I bought 2 years ago and barely used. I write without stopping, no punctuation, no order, whatever surfaces. The first page is usually nothing but noise. By the second page a real number shows up, the electric bill or the $400 I still owe my sister, and the fear stops being fog and turns into a fact I can hold. The third thing I do, and I do it every single Sunday now, is get squared away before I let myself sit down. Shirt on the hanger, ironed. Shoes by the door, actually polished, not wiped. Laptop charger zipped into the front pocket of my bag where it always lives. Lunch made and in the fridge. It takes maybe 20 minutes total, and it changes almost nothing about Monday itself, but it changes everything about how I walk into it. I know exactly what happens when I skip that. 3 weeks ago I didn't iron anything, told myself I was too tired, and Monday morning I couldn't find a clean shirt, which made me 12 minutes late, which meant I hit traffic I'd normally miss, which meant I opened my laptop already behind before a single email loaded. One small crack at 7 a.m. and by 10 the whole day had fallen through it. I still don't fully understand why it works that way. There's a line I heard years ago from an old family friend who spent most of his life in the army. Time spent in reconnaissance is never wasted. I've quietly rewritten it for myself. Time spent in preparation is never wasted. It's not about being paranoid or controlling every variable, because Monday will still throw something at me I didn't see coming. It's about making sure the first domino doesn't fall, because I've learned by now that the first one always takes the rest down with it. Here's the layer under all of it, the one I've been circling for weeks in these pages. Most jobs, mine included, were never built to feel like a calling every day. Mine is a job. It's fine. It pays the rent and I don't hate it, but it doesn't hum with meaning at 9 on a Tuesday morning. What I've come to believe instead is that meaning is retroactive. I don't feel it in the moment. I find it later, looking back, seeing that something I did actually mattered to someone. So now, every Friday around 5, before I close the laptop, I ask myself one question instead of packing up and leaving. Did I carry my part of the load this week? Did I leave the people around me with something extra, or did I take more than I gave? Some Fridays the honest answer is I coasted, and I feel it. Other Fridays I know I left things better than I found them, and that answer alone changes how heavy the weekend feels. Okay, here's the thing I actually haven't written down until now. It isn't Monday I'm afraid of. It's the version of my life where nobody needs me at all, where the phone doesn't buzz, where there's no list, no project, no one waiting on a reply from me. I picture being 68, sitting in a quiet house on some gray afternoon with nothing asked of me, and that scares me more than any deadline ever has. I'd rather be tired and needed than rested and irrelevant. So when that switch flips at 3 o'clock and my chest goes tight, I try to remember it doesn't mean I'm broken. It means I take it seriously. It means there are actual people on the other end of my work, colleagues, clients, my own family, who are counting on me to show up steady on Monday. The anxiety is the weight of being someone others can lean on, and honestly, I'd rather carry that weight than never be trusted with it. The answer was never to skip Sunday or numb it with 4 more hours of scrolling, because that never once left me feeling restored, only later. What I'm trying instead is picking one real thing to work toward, not huge, something with a shape. A camping trip in September, saving $300 toward a weekend away with my sister in November, something on the calendar that isn't a task, that exists purely to be looked forward to, not survived. I think that's what courage actually looks like here. Not fixing the fear, walking from Sunday night into Monday morning anyway, list already written, shirt already hung. I still don't fully know if I have it in me every single week. I open the Notes app one more time before bed, only to check the 3 things are still there. If you're still reading this far into someone else's Notes app, hit like, drop a comment telling me your own Sunday, and subscribe if you want to keep reading these with me, because I'm not done figuring this out.